There we go. Oh, there we go. That looks a little better. Okay. Oh, that doesn't look quite. That's good. There we go. Yeah, that looks good. Let's see if I can watch myself. Oh, I've already got a thumbs up, huh? Who did that for me? Let's see. Well, hi, Kathy. How are you? That looks a little dirty. Hold on. Let me. That looks a little better. Yeah. Give me just a second. Wabbit hunting are you? Sorry, I had to make me another cup of coffee. Yeah. Well, I figured I'd get on and kind of do a tutorial about making bread. It's one of these things that if I can do it, anybody can do it. So Pikachu, that's cool. So I figured I'd kind of start from the beginning. I don't have anything out yet, which okay, you can watch. It's going to take a little while. It takes generally about 2.5 or so hours. My stream will be up the whole time. Uh, I may at one point have to plug my phone in because that's what I'm using. But I figured I'd kind of share with you guys the whole process from start to finish and show you just kind of how easy it is to make some bread. So, yeah, you can lay back, sit back, relax, and enjoy the process. Retired and prepping. Oh, how are you retired and prepping? Now, I'm not familiar with a lot of people's names, so other than your channel name, so I may have to ask your first name or whatever, just so I know. My son wants to say hi. He just wants to. This is Andrew. He's 11. So you guys are going to hear my family in the background and things like that. So. Juliet. Well, very nice to meet you, Juliet. I've made bread before, but it's been a very, very long time. Generally, we go to the store, buy a loaf of bread, and be done with it. But there's nothing like the actual smell of homemade bread. So it's really easy. It just takes a long time. This recipe is from the Taste of Home website. It's basic homemade white bread, and it, believe it or not, has 6 ingredients. One of those is yeast. Now you want to make sure that when you get yeast, or if you've had it in your cabinet for a long time, you look at the date on it, because yeast is an active bacteria that when you put it into warm water, it actually becomes alive again. And it has a date on it. Mine is getting to the point where I have to use it. I've got until December 28th. So this is the last package. Last time I used yeast was last year. I made some cinnamon rolls. So yeah, I figure I use the last package. It takes 2 1/4 cups of warm water. Now, you want to make sure that your water isn't hot. If you feel the temperature of your skin, you're about 98 degrees. So you want it in between 105 and about 115 degrees Fahrenheit, because that's when the temperature of the water helps to rehydrate the yeast and allow it to really start back and doing its thing again. So you can, like I said, a little warmer, like, let's see, 120 degrees is where yeast will start to break down and die. You want it about 10, 15 degrees warmer than your body temperature. And every so often I'll flip back on my tablet here and look at the comments. Don't mind the bald spot on my head. Don't want any. If I don't see your comments right away, yeah, it could be a little warmer. Don't mind me. I'm doing all this, so.
And my mom's working with them back there.
That's fine. Talk amongst yourselves. get to know each other. You know, that's what my live streams are about. Chit chatting and having fun. So now, one thing you want to be sure of when you do the yeast into the warm water, like I said, you don't want it to be hot water. You sprinkle it in. You don't want to use metal spoon when you're warming the yeast or hydrating the yeast, because the chemicals in the metal actually do a bad thing to the yeast, and it'll kill it off. Kind of break up some of those larger clumps of yeast. How are you doing, Sherry? I'm doing good. Just figured I'd make some homemade bread. Love the smell of it cooking. Haven't done homemade bread in years, so breaking up some of the bigger clumps of the yeast. Now this is a good sign. When you're doing your yeast, you make sure you let it sit for about 5 minutes in the warm water. And the yeast will look cloudy when you first put it in, and you stir it up a little bit. You love watching me cook. Well, I do a lot of cooking. I don't always live stream it, but I've been doing some live streams of cooking lately, so I figured I'd continue on that little trend and let this sit for about 5 minutes. It'll cloud up. It may even start to bubble and get a little foamy. When I put it in, the yeast, the little balls of yeast, it's not all. There's little clumps of it in there, so it started to foam up on those little clumps. So that was a good sign that it's still good. Well, thank you, Sherry. I really appreciate that. I always appreciate anybody coming in and watching my videos. Pull out. It doesn't want to pull out. So when I do things like this, and okay, you guys can't really see it, so I'll try to bring the bowl a little closer. This right here, can't really see it. Some of these are bubbling, and that's a perfect sign. That's what you want to see. If you don't see any bubbling, you want to throw your yeast out because it's bad. So No, you don't want to add sugar to it yet. You let that yeast reactivate before you add the sugar in, because the sugar is actually food for the yeast. And when you add that in before it's reactivated, uh, it'll start to eat on that sugar uh, before it's good. And you don't want to. Some recipes ask you to add the sugar along with the yeast. Others, you let it bubble up a little bit. You wait a few minutes, and then you add the sugar. Okay, which is actually is what I'm going to do now. So 3 tablespoons of sugar. One tablespoon of salt, which acts as a buffer for the yeast. With each ingredient I add, I like to stir it up. That way, it dissolves, and that yeast can eat that sugar and everything like that without having any issues. 2 tablespoons of canola oil. I don't have canola oil, so I can use either olive or vegetable oil. And I have my. I really like these. These are wooden measuring spoons. I can't remember where we picked these up at. I think we picked these up at Walmart one day. They're really cool. But I only use those for dry ingredients. My wet ingredients, I use the old plastic ones. Now, only a few of them have. That's the bad thing about these plastic cheap measuring spoons, is that the measurements wear off on them real bad. Like that one, I know it's the biggest one, and I know it had a tablespoon on there, so I know it's a tablespoon. Um, like this one, it still says eighth of a teaspoon, but like the half, the teaspoon, the full teaspoon, the half a tablespoon. I mean, I know my measurements, but they just don't have them. Now, I like the taste of olive oil, and even in bread. So I'm going to use olive oil. For half of it. And the other half I'm going to use vegetable oil. So no, I don't buy the small things of vegetable oil because it's just a waste of money. So I buy the big giganto ones, and we always end up using it. So that's 2 tablespoons. Come back in here and see what y'all are talking about. Stir that up a little bit. Kale soup. Kale soup. I don't like the taste of kale. It's like seaweed, and I don't like that taste. So I'm gonna have to go with what I'm having for dinner. So, but I haven't planned that yet. I don't plan dinner until it's right up to dinner time. Okay, so now I get to the fun part. 6 cups of flour. Thought I had one in there. Okay. I'm going to add half of it right now. Then I'm going to stir it. I'm going to fold it. Stir it. I'm going to fold it together. That way.
Can I put, my mom said ask you if I could play my phone.
I'll think about it. I'm stirring this halfway through because flour can be really hard to combine into a wet mixture. So you can add a cup at a time and stir a little bit. Then you can add another cup, and so as long as you get the right amount of flour in there, you don't want to. I'm doing this by hand because I don't have a mixer with a hook. It would make things like 10 times easier, but I'm doing this the old-fashioned way. Well, hi, Marie. How are you? Okay, so that flour is incorporated. I have to get more flour before I end up making anything else. Now, after I add half, because it's getting a lot thicker than it was, I only add a cup at a time. Well, hello, Living and Learning Life. How are you? Okay, this is turning into a really doughy consistency, so that's really good. I want to add one more cup. and see how it's looking. Sometimes some recipes will have a lot more than you really want to add in, and I like to play it safe. I go a little at a time compared to what it says. I'm going to end up kneading this after I get this most of this flour incorporated for about 10 minutes. And it's still really tacky. Tackiness is good because I'm going to incorporate. I have another cup and a quarter to add, so now I'm going to fold it with my hands inside the bowl because now it's tacky enough where it's going to stick to my spatula too much, but not tacky enough to really put on counter yet. It's got 6. You guys don't have to just sit here and watch me do this. You can talk amongst yourselves and okay. I'm going to go back to my recipe for a second. Up here. Now here comes the fun part, guys. This goes on here for about between 8 and 10 minutes. This is going to incorporate more flour into the dough. It's going to pull those proteins together and separate others so that it turns into a nice soft textured bread. Yeah, I got some on me so far. When you knead dough, you're pulling it. You you all know how to knead dough, but it adds that little air pocket in there. And you push down, sometimes flour spits out at you like it just did at me. So and this is going to end up turning into a nice elastic dough. When you're kneading it, it's pulling those proteins in the flour, and you're going to feel. I mean, when it's going to feel uh, kind of slick at first, but then it'll get tacky on your palms, and that's when you know you have to add a little more flour. Well, you'll have it today, sweetie. Anybody know how long I've been doing this? You're just not going to let that go, are you, Kathy? Now, one thing you're going to feel when you first take it out of the bowl and you start to add your flour, you're going to see and feel little lumps inside of your dough. Um, when you're doing this, you see how that's turning elastic? It's turning stretchy. Um, you're going to feel it smooth out. Somebody go back and tell me how long ago I started this. How many minutes have I been doing this? I love the smell. Really smell that yeast. No, I mean kneading the bread. Go back to when I started kneading the bread and let me know how many minutes I've been kneading it. want to over knead it. I think it's only been about 6 minutes. Well, hold on. Time stamp. No, about 6 minutes. Yeah, 6 minutes exactly. I got it. This is how bakers end up really getting big arm muscles because they need dough if they don't put it in a mixer. At 9 minutes? Okay. That's perfect then. Okay. I thought that consistency was turning out good. Okay. So I'm going to turn my oven on for just a minute while I wash this bowl out because this is my favorite bowl. It's my favorite big bowl. We have the set of Pyrex bowls that I love to use, and it's the biggest one out of them. So I'm going to turn it off. I just want the oven to warm up enough so it's above room temperature. Okay. So what I need now is my bowl my bowl oiled. Put just a little bit of oil in there. And I'm not scared. I'm not scared of oil. I want my bowl oiled because my bread. Now you can use most any kind of oil that you have or that you like. Um, I'm weird. I don't like olives, but I love olive oil when cooking and stuff like that. I love the taste. So I try to incorporate it into baking as much as I can. And bread is good because bakers thousands of years ago, and for thousands of years, people have used olive oil in baking rather than the vegetable oils and stuff like that we have today. So, and to answer your question, I saw a minute ago, uh, I've been baking for a long time. Bread in particular, I haven't made in years, but just kind of learning on my own. Nothing spectacular. I didn't go to any kind of cooking school or anything. Just uh, trial and error on things. Reading cookbooks and okay. So I can turn it on for a little bit longer. Be right back. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a towel, cover my bowl, shut my oven back off. Feels not hot in here. My rack, I can take that with my hand. It's not hot. Just turn it on for a few minutes to warm it up in the oven. And I take my look and see about how high that is now. Okay. I want to put it in a warm spot. Oven is the normal place for people to put it. But it can be in any warm place in your house. And you set it in there, and this is actually the longest part of making bread because you have to let it rise and you let it double in size. When you let it double in size, it gets that light airiness, the sponginess to the inside of the bread. Yes, I do cook and clean my mess. I try not to make a mess, but most times it's inevitable. If you're not making a mess with some things, you're not cooking it right. Wow, I have 12 people watching? Wow. Hi, Tim. How are you? Did you guys like my intro picture? I thought that was a cool little setup. Hi, Evans Gates, Cherry Farm. How are you doing? So how's everybody's day been? To let this bread rise, it takes between an hour and a half, depending on how your yeast is active. And if you do it right, it could take an hour, but it could take longer. So it's a waiting game now. So I will bring a chair up because I did say this was from beginning to end. So I will sit down with y'all, chit chat. This is a chair for midgets to higher counters. To make my bread rise, it's all part of the yeast and the temperature that you let it rise in. Uh, when you read cookbooks and things like that, some of them don't tell you all of the smaller nuances and details about cooking. And a trick that I've learned, because an oven is generally the same temperature as the rest of your house. If you are not if you haven't cooked in it in a while, it might be a little warm, but it's not warm enough to let that yeast eat those sugars and proteins that it needs to be able to rise. So I generally turn mine on for like a minute or two to let it increase in temperature by about 15 degrees. And you have to make sure that your yeast is good. If when you put the yeast in the bowl of water and it doesn't, after a couple minutes, have any bubbles at all, you need to get new yeast because that yeast is bad. You're welcome. I use Fleischmann's yeast. That I've always had good luck with that, whether I'm making cinnamon rolls or uh, whatever. And I've never had a problem with it before its expiration. Some off-brand yeasts uh, aren't as good as they could be until their expiration, so they go bad. And you want to make sure that when you're activating that yeast with the warm water, that it does bubble. Now, like I said in the beginning, this is if you go on Taste of Home. Uh, oh, he just. That's where I'm getting this recipe. It's a pretty simple recipe. It has 6 ingredients: water, yeast, salt, sugar, flour, and that's all that's in it. And it's pretty simple recipe. Now, this recipe makes 2 9x5 loaves of bread. You may not be having your warm water warm enough, or you may have it too hot. A lot of people make a mistake and actually use hot water. Hot water for yeast is anything above 120. Water not warm enough is you can use anything between about 107 and 115 for the temperature. 107 or 15 degrees Fahrenheit. That's when the yeast starts to reactivate and rehydrate. So, oh, how does that turn out, Tim? I've actually never made Irish soda bread. That I've had it, but I've never made it. So now I'll take the bread out uh, after about 30 minutes, and I'll show you guys how it's risen. And I can smell it. You can smell it rising. That's what you want. You want that yeasty smell. If you don't have that yeasty smell, then your yeast doesn't activate it. And it'll actually start to rise a little bit. It'll get bigger as you're kneading it because you're activating those proteins with that yeast, and they're able to chew on it and eat it and release that carbon dioxide, which is what creates the texture inside the bread. So not only are you getting a cooking demonstration and video, but you're also getting some science and chemistry in there too, letting you guys know how, what activates the yeast and how the bread is able to rise like that. You need it for, well, this particular recipe, and in general, about 10 minutes. It depends though. It depends on the flour you're using. It depends on the yeast. It depends on a lot of factors. When you're kneading it, you're able to feel all around the dough, and it'll smooth out. It'll get a very what's the word I'm trying to think of? Kind of a stretchy texture, but not really like stretchy, but it'll smooth out. I'll say that. And it'll become more of a dough rather than just a blob of flour and other stuff. Another thing, another hint as to when you're done kneading. You'll feel the weight of it, and it'll feel a lot heavier. Yeah, you're taking in more flour, which is going to make it heavier, but it'll become more of a solid. It's hard to explain unless you're, actually doing it, but you'll feel the solidness of the dough. And when it gets harder and harder to knead, you don't want it so that it's falling apart. You don't want to add too much flour. It'll have that smoothness to it and that weight to it, and then you'll know when it's done. So, how's the weather for everybody today? I know last night there was a lot of people talking, a lot of storms were coming through. And today here, it turned out to be a really nice day. It was in the mid to upper 50s, maybe 60s, and but it's supposed to be the last decent day out for a while. We are expecting snow actually Thursday, Friday or so. So it would be the first snow of the season. I don't know how much we're expecting, but they're saying some kind of snow. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to try your way. What are you making? Oh, you're in Michigan. There's quite a few people. I don't know if you uh, watch Iron Dog 63. He's from Michigan as well. We are in Missouri, out by St. Louis. Oh, Amish bread. Okay, yeah, that's really good bread. I like Amish bread. I just only had one packet of yeast, so that one packet of yeast doesn't make a lot of different recipes. Generally, it's two packets that you use. So I found a good recipe that only uses one. Okay, so it's been about 15-20 minutes. I'll check and see just how much it's risen so far. You don't want to check it too much because it'll mess up the activity of the yeast. But you saw how it was when I first put it in. It's risen a little bit. Now it's just a little bit below the lip of the bowl. And you can feel that weight getting heavier. So I want to leave it in. Like I said, it generally takes about an hour to an hour and a half. And when it's done, all I do is I take it out, kind of, actually, I punch it down. And a lot of people don't realize that punching the dough down doesn't consist of actually punching it. All you're doing is gently putting your fist into the dough. That's taking a lot of the carbon dioxide out of it. And that's good because you actually split it in half from there. This actually, like I said, makes two loaves. Split it, I put it in the pan and then let it rise more. And once it's risen, then I bake it. And it bakes for about 45 minutes. It's not that bad. More coffee time. does anybody have any big plans for Thanksgiving? You're gonna make my pumpkin roll good. Let me know how it turns out, Marie. It was delicious. I can't tell you how good that pumpkin roll was. I got the idea because um, Ashley's ex-husband, Andrew's dad, his wife now, she would make Ashley a pumpkin roll pretty much every year. And because Ashley loved the heck out of it. They're, friends. They're on a first name basis, I'll put it that way. So, okay, Heaven's Gates Cherry Farm. The recipe is actually on tasteofhome.com. If you want to type in simple homemade bread or something like that, it will take you to the actual recipe that I used, so you can have the proportions that you need. So good luck to you. Let me know how it turns out. But anyway, so this year, they're way too busy with life, and we just didn't want to have to deal with them this year. So I wanted a pumpkin roll as well. And I didn't want Ashley missing out on pumpkin roll this year. So I decided to look up a recipe for pumpkin roll, and I found one. Like I said, it turned out really, really good. If there's anything that anybody wants to know how to make, I love baking and I love showing people how to make different things. So if you want a tutorial on how to make something, breads, cookies, cakes, anything in general, let me know. Leave it in the comments. And, well, hi, Mr. Richard Smith. How are you today? I'm glad my baking bread can make you hungry. But, yeah, I can't remember where exactly I found the recipe for the pumpkin roll. But I left the instructions in the video, or the amounts and ingredients in the video, so that should be pretty easy for you to do. Now, Marie, you have the choice of using the parchment paper or the aluminum foil like I did. I used the aluminum foil and it turned out perfect. I like to do some things cheaply, or what I have on hand. I like to show people that they can do things with what they have on hand and don't have to go out and buy special this or special that. And I had aluminum foil and not parchment paper on hand. Yes, the ingredients is actually in the description. Okay, make sure when you put the batter into the pan, you spread it out like I did. Otherwise, my corners were a little bit thin, so be sure you get a lot of the batter in the corners, because it'll spread back out, and make sure you get that foil down into the pan really good. But yeah, like I said, if anybody wants to know how to make anything and is afraid to try it, can I make sandwiches with the bread? Oh, this is bread that we use for sandwiches. This kind of bread, I know it's just homemade white bread, but we like to just warm up and put butter on. This is more for toast, and the freshness of the bread is what we like. But yeah, we can make sandwiches out of it. It's a normal loaf of bread. But anyway, like I was saying, if anybody is just like afraid to make something because they might screw it up, or wants to see how something is made so they can eventually do it, let me know. I can get the stuff to do it, and I can make it for you guys. That way, you have a detailed video uh, of how exactly to do that, and you can follow along with how I'm doing it, or you can do it in your own time. Cooking has always been a good passion for me, and if I can show somebody else how to do something that they've been afraid to do, or wants to see somebody else do it before they do it so that they can have a better idea, then uh, I'll go ahead and do that for you. Give you that video and show you, and take care of that part of it for you so you can see just how good it turns out. I'd be doing it just along with you. The first time doing it, if it's something I've never made before, then you can see just how easy it would be to make. Not quite sure what to make for dinner yet, sweetheart. I know it's 5 o'clock, but what do you think of homemade biscuits and gravy? Yeah, we don't have a one for meatballs, so I've got sausage thought out. Yes, be good. I make some really good homemade biscuits and gravy, but the thing about it is Ashley hasn't had it since her surgery, and she's kind of afraid to try it because she doesn't know how biscuits and the gravy would react. Where she's had other kinds of gravy, but it didn't sit too well. So she gets full very fast, Marie, and some things fill her up a lot more than others. Well, think of some things, sweetie. I've got some sausage and some hamburger thawed out, so. Any of you guys making big Thanksgiving meals this year? Okay, that sounds good. I actually think we have some cream of mushroom soup, so shepherd's pie would work too. But Ashley can't really eat mini mashed potatoes. It fills up way too much. And she has to have so much protein a day. So the carbs and empty calories in the mashed potatoes, it's not good for her to have. She's got to have as much protein as she can. So, but did any of you guys go out and vote today? I didn't. I don't vote. My political thoughts just don't match any of today's politicians. Politics these days is just way too overrated. And I understand a lot of people would argue with me on that, but it's all going to hell in a handbasket anyway. So that's just my opinion. I'll be right back, guys. Okay. I will. Okay. Oh, I lost a viewer. Darn it. Um, I'm. Ashley has me on the TV back in the room. Can you believe that? So you guys are going to get to watch me make meatloaf as well. So it's actually going to be cheese lined meatloaf or filled or whatever you want to call it. So you get two recipes in with this video. I'm going to have another smoke first. So I only have 3 viewers, actual viewers in here. Are you still in here, Marie? Okay, that's good. I just like to know who's in here, know who I'm talking to. And so, what part of you said you're in Michigan? Oh, Western Kentucky. Okay. Western Kentucky. Okay, so do you live um, like near Paducah or anything like that? Just how far west in Kentucky are you? Oh, okay, okay. Because Paducah is about 3 or 4 hours from here. Muhlenberg. Okay. I don't know where that's at. I just say okay because it gives me a. But I know Paducah is about 3 hours from St. Louis because I don't know if any of you guys watch. You probably do, but watch Doing It Cheap. Papa on there. Bob is his name. He lives in middle of Tennessee. I've looked up how to get there from here, but just to see how far away he was. I love his channel. I haven't watched him in forever. He hasn't really done many live streams lately, and I don't know why. I'm gonna. Oh, he is. I've been watching his channel for about 2 year and a half now, and he's the one and actually kind of got me into really doing YouTube videos, watching his channel and stuff. Like I said, I haven't watched him in a while. I like to watch more live streams than I like to watch actual videos because I I just feel I relate to it better. You actually get to see the person in their real setting rather than edited videos and this and that. Do my videos bring you to drinking, Richard? And you get stuff like that, the little tongue twisters and slips of the tongue, and ooh. So we get to see how this rises. Don't want to upset it much. You guys see how much that's risen so far? Almost doubled. It's 1.5 times its size by now. Yeah, it's getting close. We're not actually in St. Louis. We live south of St. Louis, actually south of St. Louis County, and We like it a lot better. We moved down here 6, 7 months ago. About no, almost 8 months now, and it's a lot better than St. Louis. Oh, okay, that's not bad. You guys are south though, so you guys don't get the weather that we get. Our weather generally goes northeast from here, so you guys are lucky. Okay, so I'm going to, like I said, you're going to get 2 recipes. I'm going to make a meatloaf, but I make my meatloaf a little different, and this time it's going to be a lot different because it's going to have it's going to be cheese stuffed. So yeah, I do a lot of different things than what a normal recipe calls for. I like to add twists. This is about a pound of extra lean ground beef.
May need a bigger bowl than that. Yeah, we need a bigger bowl.
Call this the make you hungry strain. I just got about a pound of ground beef and a pound of sausage. Mix those two together real good. Well, it's okay, Marie. I'm doing a pretty long stream tonight, so or this afternoon. So Marie, if you didn't hear, I'm doing another recipe. This is my own little concoction, but it's gonna be cheese stuffed meatloaf. Cheese stuffed Italian meatloaf because I have Italian breadcrumbs. So with this recipe, I just add whatever I think sounds good, looks good. Meatloaf is a very versatile recipe. Add in some seasoned salt, onion powder, a tablespoon or so, garlic powder, no, and a little bit of black pepper, not much. Salt. Then I take breadcrumbs. This is Italian breadcrumbs. About a cup. Between half and a cup. And then and 2 eggs. And then I like barbecue sauce in it. A little mixture of barbecue sauce. And a little bit of ketchup. That looks good. Meatloaf for me is one of those throw together things. So just concoction of various stuff. Take your hand in there and had to go. What kind of sandwiches did you make, Richard? I think a little bit more breadcrumbs. This is one of those texture things as well. You can use breadcrumbs or crackers crushed up crackers. You don't. After you add the eggs and ketchup and stuff like that, it's going to turn kind of runny. So you want to stiffen it up that way, and just kind of go from there. Mixed up real good. Ham and cheese and peanut butter. 2 separate sandwiches, I would hope. Okay, I was going to say. A little bit more garlic. Okay. I'm going to let this sit for just a minute because it's really cold. I want it to warm up just a little bit before I put it in the oven. Now this is my meatloaf pan, and it's as well as my bread pan. So I'm going to make cleanup of it. It's pretty easy. Okay. So what I do is I always cover my meatloaf when it cooks first. That way the top doesn't burn and get all black. What? Oh, yeah, that's right. Duh. I'm sorry, guys. Ashley just reminded me. This is cheese filled. I almost forgot. Nice big old handful of cheese. Yeah, I think they did too. No, it won't all fit. Okay. Okay. So my vent to my oven is right here. So I'm gonna pull out my. Oh wow! This is rising quite a bit. You guys can see the towel on that. Well, it's almost going in the oven, so. Yeah, you can't forget the bread. Make yourself a leftover meatloaf sandwich. So that takes 45 minutes or so. And I'll even show you guys how to set a thermometer. One of these cooking thermometers. Mine's kind of on its last leg. And the nut doesn't hold it tight. So it just kind of spins around. But to set it, and it falls off the counter. You got any kind of preserves? Okay. You have a nut on the bottom. Like I said, mine's kind of on its last leg. But so it just kind of spins around. But it's all nice and clean. You ice in the cup. Do some cold water in a cup. Let it sit for a minute. Well, that hot buttered bread isn't done yet, so yeah. Sometimes these things will get off on temperature, and they're not always set right at the factory. So whenever you get it, you have to make sure that it's set right. So you basically take some ice water, because that ice water or that water is sitting in ice. It's going to get down to 32 degrees. Let the ice water sit for a minute. You stick your thermometer in. And because mine's kind of janky, you want to, this little nut at the bottom, you can loosen and you'll be able to readjust it. Let me see if I can readjust mine. Hold on. See if it'll tighten up. Box of stuff. Kind of a big deal there, but yeah, ever so often you want to make sure that you adjust it. Pair of pliers. Yeah, it's not going to. But anyway, you stick it in that ice water and let it sit. And adjust it to 32 degrees. And then tighten your little nut back down, but I have to kind of leave mine. Or adjust it right before I measure it. So, yeah. Smile, ignore, smile, ignore. Smile and nod. When I plug my camera in here, it's using my phone, so just want to make sure it doesn't die on me. Okay. So, because I am, well, hold on a second. Okay, so adjustment. I am going to make my batch of bread in this, and it's twice the size of a regular loaf pan. Going to have to cook, just the cooking times, but my bread pan is in use, and my dough has risen to what it needs to rise to, and I need to transfer it. So I'm just going to end up doing it this way, and it's going to be a little longer and a little bit bigger, but I mean it's 2 loaves of bread in one, so. So this is how I'm going to do this. My dough is doubled. You guys see that? That thing, yeah. That's doubled in size. And that's only been just a little over an hour. So what I'm going to do, because like I said earlier, I like the taste of the olive oil. It gives the outside of the bread a good flavor. I want to oil my pan. Make sure you get all the sides really good. Okay. Now the way I do this, some people don't do, some people do. Sorry, I look confused on me. Lay down a bit of flour, a nice floured surface. Okay. Okay. Oh no, Marie, that's fine. They're literally talking about the bread, so that's fine. Is I like to flatten my bread out a little bit wider than the loaf pan I'm using. And then I fold it into thirds. Okay. Actually, I'll fold it the other way and make it look better. You want to be very gentle with it. Okay. Now the seam side, right here. It's going to go on the bottom. And you tuck the ends in. That is the crust on the end that a lot of people don't like to eat. But that's how that's done. Pat it down in there just a little bit. Be gentle, be nice. Okay. This has to sit and rise for another 30 to 45 minutes. So I put my towel back on it. And put it right back here where it was. Now that heat, you don't want it too hot. So I'm taking it away from the vent a little bit. Then we'll see here in about half an hour how much it's risen. You want it to rise and double again, and because it's already got so much of that carbon dioxide in there, it's not going to take as long as it took last time. You still want it in that nice warm spot. But at this point, normally you would have 2 loaf pans and you'd fold it into the loaf pans. But like I said, I'm using a bigger. It happens sometimes, Marie. It's okay. I'm sure. I'm sure they understand. Hi, JD. How are you doing? Nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. How's the lovely missus doing? How's Allie? You've missed most all my stream, JD. Oh, you've been lurking. Okay. That's good to hear. I'm glad you guys are doing good. Haven't seen you guys in forever. I mean, so at this point, waiting on the meatloaf to get done, waiting on the bread to finish doing what it's going to do, and then I put the bread in the oven. But yeah, I've missed you guys, JD. No, it's not a midget chair. It's a chair for midgets, so they can sit at regular height. You guys don't realize this counter, it's only 2.5 feet high. Well, you need to tell her she needs to get her butt in here and watch. You guys can take a break for a little bit and come chat for a minute. What kind of bugles? They better be those cheddar kind. Those are the best. Allie, Allie, Allie. Well, did you see how much that bread had risen, JD? How long have you been lurking? Oh wow, and you haven't said anything? Come on, JD. That's shame. You know better than that. You got a sky. Like I said, I haven't seen you in forever. Have you lurked on any of my other videos? Like when I did dinner the other night? Y'all are crazy. I love you guys. But you guys are my YouTube family, so I enjoy it every time I can sit down and chat with you guys. You guys doing anything special for Thanksgiving? I may just do a stream on how to make a Thanksgiving dinner. I would literally be streaming all day long for something like that. I thought you'd already moved up there. is it? Okay. So things are going really good for you two, huh? Now, where do you live, JD? Don't you live in Texas? Or am I thinking of somebody else? Oh, Ohio. Okay. Okay. Now, Marie, are you making a Thanksgiving for your family? Where are you having? Oh, nice. What kind of sides? I hope they have a big house, JD. That's a lot of people. Ew, turnips? Turnips are gross. I don't like the taste of turnips. Turnips are, if you've ever seen a root vegetable that is red and white, some are, most are, the known, more popular ones are the red and white turnips. Oh, wow, that's a big house. I could go for some of that pecan pie. I love pecan pie.